So I couldn't hold back. I couldn't hold back anymore. I just finished watching an episode of Michael Deacon's show, End of Days, and I have the link inside the description here, and I urge you to go and take a look at the show. It's a great show. Michael Deacon's a great interviewer. Everything about the show I enjoy, and whenever it's on, and I catch it, I watch it. And recently, he was given 2 YouTube strikes, and he had to move to his backup channel, which has a considerably smaller subscriber count, and it's really not fair because he's incredible in terms of how he gets information out of the people that he interviews. But it's something about the moon lately. I don't know what is up and what is going on with the moon, but it all seems to be coming to some sort of head or something. I'm not entirely sure what's happening, but I had enough. I was watching it, I retweeted it out, I put it up on the community tab, and and I all it is, it's an interview with a gentleman that's an expert, also Scott Henderson, and I believe he wrote that song "Walking on the Moon." I think it's by the Police. The lyrics look like it. So he has him on there, and this guy's poured over all of those NASA moon missions, right? And there's so many photos we've never seen before. And Michael, who, he's a very observant person, very intelligent, knows what's going on. It's one of the reasons why I'm a fan and I listen all the time. He keeps saying, "I can't believe we haven't seen these photos before." And then finally, at let's see here, I think it's around minute 38 and 36 seconds. Hopefully, I put you guys right there whenever you click on the link after this show. Go over there and sub if you can, and check out some of his content. But you have finally a photo I was familiar with, and I think it's a Mandela effect. It's a famous one of the astronaut standing there, and he's alone on the moon. And it's a famous photo of Buzz Aldrin. It's a classic photo, and suddenly there's a wristwatch. You know, clearly it's clearly a wristwatch on Buzz Aldrin, and it's kind of strange because at and I know Michael kept saying, I can't believe anyone hasn't talked about this before, talking about the other talking about the other photos, which is understandable because this guy's an expert. He's dug through the photos, and it's like thousands and thousands, and they made you download them one at a time. So this guy really was into it, and a very diligent researcher. My hat's off to that level of research. It's sort of like finding the gateway process, in a dump of 1.7 million records. Anyway, so there's a wristwatch now on Buzz Aldrin on this picture, and if you see the picture, everyone has seen this picture before, and it's clearly a wristwatch. And I do believe he has the breakdown of what kind of wristwatch it actually is, and then the lower left or the lower right hand corner, it shows you what kind of wristwatch it is. And I was just like, come on, I've had enough with this moon thing. What is going on with the moon? And, Chick and I, we've had this ongoing thing about the moon lately. Not lately. I mean, it's just been an ongoing thing. Hey, everybody in the live chat. I appreciate everybody showing up here. What's going on, Angelia, Jim, Dirk? Hey, Dead GBK, Rich. How's it going? We'll hook up again, Rich. Don't worry. Jim, Jess, Darren, everybody, thank you for showing up on such a short period of time. I really appreciate that, everybody. Diana, hello. M. Hawks, how are you? Colt fan, naturally. And it's just bothering me, man, because it's all seems to be coming to a head about this moon thing. Hey, what's up, Dick Diamonds? How you doing, man? I don't know what's happening with the moon, but it's really bizarre. We've got moon quakes. Now they're saying the moon is shrinking. There's a museum on the moon. There's urn shuttles that are just catapulting corpses, slamming them right into the moon. And it's just this ongoing strangeness with the moon. And then it all finally it came to a head for me when I was watching this show here. And I think it's a perfect illustration of people who aren't as deep as we are into the Mandela effect, that I think this is a Mandela effect that no one's discovered. And now the other photos, just them being there, I felt as if they were Mandela effects. But you have this person, Scott Henderson, who who did the work, who did the studying. But the fact is that they're here. And what we know about the way the multiverse works and the way in which, multiple versions of reality interact with one another, there's no reason why we couldn't have had a Mandela effect shift. And there was different versions of ourselves, such as there's different versions of Scott Henderson. And finally, what we've brought in is, the way the shifts work, we've brought in to this reality during another shift a version of another reality, or a fragment from the older shift from Sagittarius. Either way, with those new photographs for us, because I'm seeing these photographs and they're blatant. They're blatant that that the moon mission was something that was orchestrated and something that was falsified from these photographs. It's blatant from these photographs. And I believe him when he said he got them off of NASA, and he talks about getting a hold of them, and he gives out specific numbers and it's very technical how they found it. Anyway, the point is, go to minute 38, second 36. 38 minutes and 36 seconds into this, and there's a wristwatch on Buzz Aldrin. And not to mention, they also mentioned he's wearing two different gloves now, too. I think it's a Mandela effect, because it's not just that the other photos he had, which were outrageous. They showed like the American flag was wet. You can't be obviously in the vacuum of space, and equipment has mold on it. It's muddy, and it's just it looks like it's just really a cheap, shoddy job they did. And the theory that Scott Henderson has on Michael Deacon's show is that, these were guys who were fed up. They knew that there was some skullduggery going on, and they wanted the world to eventually know about this. And they somehow buried it, or I don't know. But the point is, there is a wristwatch on Buzz Aldrin, and it's just, I don't know. You would think, even if it's not something that is, you would think people would have commented. It goes back to that thing again. People would have commented on it after all these years. This thing happened 40 some years ago, or whatever it was, 45 years ago. And you would think people would have commented on it. They would have said something about it. And not to mention, how do you get a wristwatch on when you're supposed to be completely insulated? Well, and then I'm trying to look at the wristwatch. Is it completely on the outside? It kind of looks like it could be on the outside. But then you talk about the vacuum of space, and he starts describing the vacuum of space and the crushing power that the vacuum of space has. And in order for us to, on Earth, and he said it's some, and he gives technical schematics for the vacuum of space, and it's something like 40 to the negative 11th power, and he gives it a name. I don't know what the name is. But the only way that we can recreate that on Earth is through like 10 feet of concrete and another certain amount of feet of steel. And they lock this chamber, and they suck all the air out of it till they get the vacuum level that comes close to the vacuum level that you would get in space. And then you look at these thin spacesuits, and you look at these rickety tin cans. And then he gets even bold and talks about the current, space situation we have. It's a really compelling show, and it stems from the moon. And I just urge everybody to check it out. Not to mention, this Wednesday, just real quick, I will be on the Kris show. And then it's Jason Christopher. And it's Kris, J space KRIS. I'll be there talking about the gateway process and other things as well. If you guys could come over there and check the scene out and check us out, and we'll be talking about it. And it's going to be really interesting and a lot of fun. And I think it'll help our community out when we start to explain the prerequisites of perhaps what kind of background you would need to understand how the Mandela effect is possible. And I think, things like the gateway process and all of the other things that we've covered all these months, particularly the last 3 months or so, gives you a really good prerequisite of how things like this can happen with the Mandela effect, and how reality shifts really affect us in a very fundamental way. But I urge you, I urge you to go over there. The link is down there, and it's mind-blowing. And the point I was making about the vacuum is even if the wristwatch is on the outside of his body, that watch would have been crushed with the amount of vacuum. And I'll go back. I wrote it down on a piece of paper I don't have in front of me, but I wrote it down. What they were talking about in terms of the level of vacuum, and there's absolutely no way. And then you take the suit. He starts explaining with the suit versus the vacuum chamber, and there's just no way. There's just no way. Now, either there could be a couple things happening here. And I think all the other links that I have about the moon quakes, the moon shrinking, just the sun portals that we talked about. A couple things could be happening here. Either space is nothing like they describe it to us, or or well, I guess I really don't want to say it, but it's either nothing like what they describe to us, or it's a fundamental and pervasive. Oh God, I don't even say. It's all not true. So they're either misdescribing it and they're being sloppy with their facts, which I have a hard time believing because like photos like or we're having Mandela effects, I suppose. And the shifts are fundamentally changing space. And I know other channels have claimed that the Mandela effect is the reason why we're having difficulty with airplanes and the way that airplanes work. And I think that there possibly could be some merit to that. I'm not entirely sure. One thing I am sure of is that a lot of what we understood about space and about our atmosphere, our upper atmosphere, the moon being in Earth's atmosphere, it's just all of it seems to be changing and it seems to be accelerating. And the way that I'm looking at it with my eye being into the Mandela effect, I'm going year 2 into this, is that I looked at Michael Deacon, someone who has a keen eye and a keen intelligence, and being able to say, being as shocked as I was about that wristwatch because it's a very famous photograph, and the way it was repeated over and over again, I think we're dealing with some kind of Mandela effect at a minimum with this one picture, if not the entire all these other new pictures that you would think would have been everywhere. Because although I'm sure that Scott Henderson is an A plus, top level researcher, everyone knows there's been other researchers for decades and decades and decades about the moon. It's sort of like the JFK thing we've gone over, the different kinds of cars that are now in different, we have different print, in print media that have different colors and different cars and the number of seats it had and the number of people in the car. There's just blatant Mandela effects all over the place. I almost feel as if the moon is sort of rattling, it's sort of rattling out of place or something. There's just something going on there. My anonymous source had said the moon's not what you think, and he wouldn't get into it, so I don't know. But you know, I still I try to cling to the idea that at least from I would say from 2016 back, that space was the way they described it to us. And because of the Mandela effect 2016 on, is there a possibility that there's been a change? Obviously, yes, because we see geo changes all the time. And, now we have, see. So does my stepdad, and he designs Scott. I haven't been paying attention. I've just jumped over to the I just jumped over to Oh, thank you, Rusty. Who's being rude? I haven't been paying. I just jumped into the chat here, folks. Acting defensive regarding space because they know in the pit of their stomach that it's fake and is not something he can control. Yeah, I'm just telling you. I mean, look at the links. I mean, in terms of speculation and everything else, somebody here has a show, Charles Pritchard. So does my stepdad. I missed it. Sorry, Charles. I missed what you were saying. Um, so does my stepdad, and he has designed cockpit instrument panels. No, that's great. Let's see here. I'll see. Grew up on the Space Coast, still here. Been going to the Space Center childhood, seeing these transports up close is seeing these transport up close is laughable. So let me ask you, since you're on the Space Coast, Paulina, are you saying laughable as in it's not real? And I'll wait for your answer here. If you get photos out of NASA photo database online, metadata shows they were created in Photoshop, LOL. Okay. Oh, man. Um, yeah, I've got 68 watching right now, JH, but I don't know, you may have put that up a while back. So my point is that it's all out there. Just check it out. It's just weirdness. I definitely remember engines being under wings, not in the front. Yeah, a lot of people do. A lot of people. Yep. A lot of people remember that. It's just weird. So, let's see. They look like they would be offsetting physics-wise, not to mention the heat source is now closer to the fuel wings. Interesting. The moon appears to be upside down in a totally different place. JH, that's a good point. Oftentimes I've noticed the moon, and I look at the moon almost every night, or I look for it, even when it's cloudy out. And the face will change, it'll move. It'll be upside down, and it'll be, there's sometimes the face won't even be on there. But those were just my personal observations that I can't prove anything. The things I try to concentrate. I mean, I could tell you all kinds of crazy things I've seen before. I try to lay off of that. I'm trying to go more into the direction of giving you links and giving you real photographs, and giving you the way in which things are really being reported. And I try to go to, and that's the route I'm trying to go. So if you want to, you can argue with my speculation, and that's fine. But what you can't argue, you're going to have to argue with the author of the articles or the institutions that are putting out the articles, because I don't have the stamina to keep arguing with people. And I decided that a while back. So, it does make sense that they are forward wings can lift the thrust of the engine air, not in the ambient. Okay. The moon is changing all the time. That is correct. That is correct. Yes. Let's see. Could there be another false fact like gravity not needed with toroidal fields? Eileen, at this point, anything is possible. Now that I know that there's an Andy Warhol on the moon, now that I've known that we're slamming urns into the into the moon, we've nuked the moon. The moon is in Earth's atmosphere. The moon is shaking. The moon is quaking. I don't even know if I have all of my facts. We have sun portals that are using, these sort of plasma strands to connect to Earth all over the place. And, and Buzz Aldrin now has a wristwatch in the vacuum of space. And the vacuum of space is supposed to be so fearsome. It took like 20, and he puts it that he has pictures of it here. Let's see here. Vacuum of space. Vacuum of space. Vacuum of space measurement. Let's see. Let's see what it says here. So here we go. Here it is. Perfect. In a manometer with 1 torr equaling 133.32 pascals above absolute zero. Right. He was calling it torrs. He says but a vacuum is often measured in torrs. And what he was talking about, it was like 30 to the negative 11th power in space. And we get it to something around half of that is the best we can get on the planet. It's displacement of a millimeter of mercury. There you go. So 1 torr equaling 133.322. All right. So, and what he was talking about is we can barely approach that, and it takes 10 feet of concrete and another, like I think it was 5 feet of steel is what he was mentioning inside of this thing, and they get almost to that point. So, then he didn't even really touch on the Van Allen belts all that much, because I'm still curious about that, because I believe then all the measurements are kind of out of place now at this point. So, I don't know. It's very strange. So let's see what we got here. Mm. So yeah. Anyway, tomorrow. Not tomorrow. What is today? Tuesday. Yeah, tomorrow night. Um, we're gonna be. I'll be on Kris. And I could probably drop the link in here real quick. Let me do that before taking off. I just wanted to get this out there. A lot of these things I'm gonna, like I said, I was trying to do a lot shorter shows in faster bursts. And what I want to do is just, while it's on my mind and it's fresh, it just blows you away at certain points, and you're just like, come on, man, Kris, I am. There we go. Get over to his page. Here it is. Excellent. I'm going to paste that in here, and then I'm going to jump off. And we're going to talk about some really cool stuff tomorrow night. I believe, and don't quote me on this, I think it's around 7 or 8 o'clock Eastern. There's his channel. Let's see. My moon is almost phasing from top to bottom for about 3 years. Used to phase left to right. Interesting. Interesting. J.H. Armstrong, I point out that to people today, it's an illusion. I'm just reading some of you guys' stuff before I get out of here. The moon careens around the sky like a drunken sailor. It's great, you guys. You guys are great. All right, I'm just reading everybody's stuff here. So look, if you're new to the channel and you're new to how I operate, yeah, maybe it's being altered because the flat Earth's consciousness is growing and adapting and hacking our reality consciousness. Well, if you go back to the gateway process, oh wow, I didn't include the CIA FOIA document. I should have included the gateway document. I'll alter the description to include the CIA FOIA document, so Dirk Meyer, they can understand how that can actually happen, and you can do that on a grand scale. Also, too, I got a comment from someone recently here, and I won't say their name because I didn't ask them for permission, but they talked about, there's an author out there that wrote a book about someone who was on the Oregon or Washington coast. They saw an entire military base click in, and there were military personnel that noticed this person noticing them, and then they immediately clicked out. So that would be one of those instances that we're talking about, a frequency vibrational change where the military could have, for the lack of a better words, invaded another reality, colonized it, and they clicked in by accident. And that could be or it could have been something where the vibrational frequencies were caught up in the middle of a shift or something, and they had to change something in terms of those vibrational frequencies that we were talking about, the cell's antenna. So, all right, I'm gonna get out of here. I just had to get that down. We have almost 70 people watching. If we could get some thumbs up in here so we can get this out here, talking about this moon madness. End of Days with Michael Deacon. Really, really cool format, the way he interviews. Check out the link below. I watched the whole moon episode, and it was kind of floored by it. And it was so strange. And then obviously is all the new moon madness, which we have, tons of links if you go to earlier episodes. And, like I said, you can argue with me about my speculations, but one thing you can't argue about are the links, because you're going to have to go to the people that produce those links. And then ultimately you're going to have to go to the source, which is NASA, which is the US government, which is other governments around the planet that are actually producing the data for this information. If you want to argue with me, you can, that's fine. But ultimately, I'm going to point you to the links, the mainstream media links that I'm going to post from here on out. Because as I was saying, the mainstream media is far more strange now, far more strange than the most out there conspiracy theorist, and I proudly put myself in that camp among my brethren out there because it's getting so wacky and bizarre. I mean, think about this last week, what, 2 weeks or so have been going on about this UAP UFO thing. I didn't see that coming. But when you start digging into the Mandela effect and you start really looking, you start to realize that the prerequisites that are required for you to understand reality are vast, and it's almost unending. And if you have to have a real spirit and a real sense of adventure and journey. I mean, just a total swashbuckler, and you've really got to be into it. And I'm doing everything I can to present it without any kind of fear. I want to present it to the audience and have them a sense of wonder with me, because I think ultimately, we're here, we're together, and for the most part, we don't, until we discover something that I think is actually relatively close, and perhaps something that maybe the flat earthers have done. We don't really have total control of a situation, and perhaps it's something to do with the way the flat earthers approached everything in terms of their belligerence. And I've said that before. If there's any flat earthers listening, I'm not insulting you. It was the way in which you handled the insults, the belittlement. You took all of the negative bag of vocabulary that they throw at you, and they took it in stride. And if you read the CIA FOIA document, the Gateway document, you know, one of the crucial pieces of the document is it talks about how, and in fact, I'm going to go ahead and end this episode with the way the world works. If anybody's wondering how the flat earth could change consciousness, the universe is composed of interacting energy fields, some at rest and some in motion. It is in and of itself one gigantic hologram of unbelievable complexity. The human mind is also a hologram which attunes itself to the universal hologram by medium of exchange, of energy exchange, thereby deducing meaning and achieving the state which we all call consciousness. It goes on to talk about patterning, and that's how you change reality. So who knows? Who knows? I certainly don't. Wow, Charles Williamson, that's kind of cool. What's that all about? They hacked the light pattern frequencies. Absolutely. So anyway, guys, give me those thumbs up. As always, with everything we do have super chats, but I'm not going to push that on anybody. And I will keep my head up, and I'll keep my ears out. And for the person who commented, if they happen to listen, I'm going to try to find that comment, and I'll ask your permission if I can use your name. And I will, yeah. Saw B-52 flying over here in DC. Ooh, that's not good, considering how locked down that airspace is. DC is locked down. All right, say hello to Chick. I will. All right, guys. I will talk to everybody later. See ya.